All right. Good evening and welcome to the Monday, September 29th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll go ahead and start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson, present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller.
Present.
Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Okay. Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky.
Present.
Commissioner Emma Fullwilder.
Present.
And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow is not yet. Okay. All right, moving on to approval of the agenda. Approval of the agenda for the Monday, September 29th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission.
Kelsey just logged on.
Let the record reflect that Commissioner Lutzow is now present.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Daniels, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And then moving on to approval of the minutes. Approval of the minutes from the special meeting, Thursday, September 4th, and Monday, September 8th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Ravinsky, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor? Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business. And item number 1 is a public hearing. This public hearing has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or are only providing information in this matter. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearings, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and we will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on a request to authorize the partial closure of the 1,000 to 1,700 blocks North Quincy Street, 700 block Eastman, and the 700 block of Vanderbreck Street, submitted by the City of Green Bay. Oh, that was it. Submitted by the City of Green Bay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this request involves the train tracks that run along North Quincy Street. So there's 3 different items that we're looking at today. The black and white dash lines is regarding lane closures along North Quincy. So right now there's 4 lanes. The proposal is to take it down to 2. The 4 lanes will remain there. It's just that the outer 2 lanes would end up getting crosshatched, so it can't really be used for the flow of traffic anymore, but it'll still be there. And then a street closure at Vanderbrock and North Quincy, and then westbound Eastman Avenue at North Quincy, in between North Jackson and North Quincy. So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is the future land use of the area. It's all industrial, with general industrial, with the area just to the south of Eastman Ave is parks. And then when it comes to the zoning district, it is general industrial with some portions of C2 in there. So this is the first one. So kind of where this stems from is that the City of Green Bay, the Public Works Department, has been working closely with the local railroad company and the Office of Railroad Commission to reduce conflict points between motor vehicles and train traffic along North Quincy Street. So the first one is at okay, this is the first one, okay. So at Eastman Avenue, in between North Jackson and North Quincy Street, so that westbound lane would end up being closed. And if you want to go to the next slide. And this is a view of that area. So as you can see the railroad tracks. If you want to go to the next slide, it'll show another angle. So that was looking northeast, and then this one is looking west at the intersection of North Jackson and Eastman Ave. So this is where it would be closed. You want to go to the next? And then this is the Vanderbroek intersection. So that's where it would be closed, and then a view of what that area looks like. So this is looking northeast from North Quincy at Vanderbroek Street. So just to the right of where that truck is in the center is where Vanderbroek is, and those railroad tracks. And then you can also kind of see through these images how the railroad track goes along the side of North Quincy. And then this is a view looking west at Vanderbroek. And so this is the portion that would be closed there. I don't really have any images of the North Quincy in the presentation, just because you can kind of see from these other images of what they're dealing with. So as I mentioned, these measures are part of ongoing efforts to improve safety in the area. The Traffic, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Commission reviewed this request at their August 18th meeting and recommended approval of the changes. When we do road closures, we do send it out to various agencies to see if they have any objections. Comments were due today, and I did get a few more that came in from a couple different agencies. So the fire department stated that they have no objection provided in regard to the closure of Vanderbroek Street. This creates an issue per IFC 2021 503.2.5 dead ends. The newly created dead end shall be provided with an approved turnaround per IFC Appendix D, Table 103.4. In regard to the reducing of lanes along North Quincy Street, as long as the outside lanes are only marked and the paving is not removed, the fire department has no issue, as we could still use those marked lanes for fire department emergency access during an emergency event. The fire department did speak with Public Works about this, and that long-term plan would be to put some type of hammerhead at that location for a turnaround, or to work out some type of easement for an egress easement with another property owner there in order to make the turnaround. Because not only does this closure impact the fire department, it does impact public works such as snow removal, garbage pickup, and the like. I did get comments back from New Water. They have facilities that are present in the area, and they have no objection provided that the pavement on Quincy Street remains in place and right-of-way is not changed. The additional pavement allows New Water to maintain our existing infrastructure without requiring costly traffic control in an area where there is significant semi-truck traffic. And then we did get feedback from WPS, and they have no objections. We did get a phone call from the property owner at 825 Vanderbroek Street, which is Vanderbroek LLC. They had concerns about the closure as well, and how it would affect their trucking. And I did hear today from Kevin Keene, who owns 724 Vanderbroek. I believe he was going to be here in person to speak, but he had some similar concerns as well. Valerie Justin is here, the Director of Department of Public Works, so after the public hearing, if there's any questions, she's here as well. They've been working with the Office of Railroad Commissioners for a while now, and so this is kind of the arrangement that's been worked out at this point. It's my understanding that the original request also included Wheezy Street to close that down. but they were able to keep that open. So that's all I have at this time.
Okay. All right, now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Just come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Kevin Keene. I own Keene Printing. Keene Printing is located at 401 North Quincy Street in Green Bay. And we also own property 724 in Vanderbrack. The issue with the safety, as I've brought to the attention of the Railroad Commission or the people that are running the railroad, is that Green Bay Packaging is parking their empty box trucks on the north or on the west end of their building, and they're putting them too wide. Now, the picture that you saw earlier today did not show that. There occasionally are no trucks there, but when the trucks are there, you have to almost be on the train tracks to see past the trucks. Now, the trucks are in the railroad right away, is my understanding, so removing the trucks will resolve all the problem. That's my opinion. Because then you can see the trains that are coming, because I've had a couple of close calls because they sneak up there. Real quickly, if we don't have by closing that street and I can't turn a semi around, that's not really zoned industrial anymore, because we have a lot of semis that come through and they're going to load there. And right now, they go down Radisson, they go north, they go south on Quincy, and then they take a left onto Vanderbrack. And all that makes sense. Then they can take it right and go right back on North Quincy to get back out to the highway without running over by the Goodwill area where there's all those people walking through the streets, going to the food pantries. And so really, for me, this just comes down to, the city having to put all this money into this because the railroad either won't enforce the right-of-way and keep semis off of that. And I've requested this several times to Green Bay Packaging as well as to the railroad. It's a very simple problem to solve. The city doesn't need to spend any money to do this. That's really what they got to do on North Vanderbrack. And if we can't get trucks in there, why would we stay? It's all of a sudden now, is it my responsibility to move this because they won't move their semis? Or this has always been zoned industrial. Okay, industrial means semi trucks, in my opinion. We've owned the property for 20 years, and I don't remember the safety being an issue until now. But I know my 3 minutes are up, and I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. And if you have any questions, I have taken pictures, and I have pictures of what that is a hazard right now. I will agree with it, but it's a hazard because you can't see to the right because the trucks are all parked within 8 feet of the tracks. Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. That was your time. You were
Good time.
Perfect, right on time. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 2. Consideration with possible action on a request to authorize the partial closure of the 1,000 to 1,700 blocks North Quincy Street, 700 block Eastman, and the 700 block of Vanderbrack Street, submitted by the City of Green Bay property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our recommendation is approval of the request. The city's been working on this matter for several years now, and Valerie's here in case you have questions to ask, or if there's other items that you want to mention to Valerie, you're welcome to.
I do want to clarify just something about Wheezy Street. So we are, if you want that, so just to step back a minute, we're actually under orders from the Office of the Commission of the Railroad for these closures. So there's been some, it's been going on for 2 years, and we've had several extensions, and So we're kind of at the tail end of this and needing to take action. So we're talking about, the closure at Vanderbeck and the one on Eastman. There was mention of Wheezy Street, so we're also under orders for closure of that one. We just have not reached a conclusion yet, but we have, so I just wanted to clarify that it hasn't been resolved, but it's a third one that we're working on as well.
All right, and then the last gentleman, he spoke about trucks parking. Is that something that's like an issue that we can call? Oh, well, right, but if
Yeah.
they're parking in a place that's not, they're not supposed to be parking. Isn't that a complaint
Yeah,
driven?
actually, I was just speaking to our traffic engineer this morning, and he had a conversation with their safety person. So they're aware of that issue. I believe it's been brought up before, but he's brought it to the attention of their safety person. And essentially, he explained that they need to take action on that, or, the other option would be, it could be referred to the inspections department. So that has been brought up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I'm assuming, fair assumption that you guys have looked over this very closely as far as the truck traffic moving around, because I think if I'm driving a semi and I get stuck in a dead-end street, how are vehicles able to get around if that happens?
Yeah, and so the conversation was about Vanderbrack, and you can still take right turns from Vanderbrack and get onto Van Buren and Klaus Street to get back out to Quincy. So, we did review it and make sure that there were options to get out of there. So I do believe that is the case.
I think the issue with Klaus, that's not signalized, right, at Webster?
No, it is not.
So,
Yeah.
I think, because they were just probably trying to get up to the signalized intersection at Radisson. But there are other ways to get out, and I think to the comment that Mr. Keene brought up about Paul's Pantry, the parking for the pantry is across the street, or the parking lot is across the street from Leo Friedel Way. So, there is a lot of pedestrians that go through there. So, yeah, it's gonna be a change for sure. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Do we have any further questions for staff?
Yes. How did we decide Vanderbrack versus Klaus, Reber, any of these other ones? Maybe help me understand the process here. It sounds like we're
Yeah.
being told which ones to close versus being consulted on.
Yeah, so these were, I don't know if you have some of the pictures, and you can maybe bring those up.
These ones?
Yeah, so you can see the proximity to the railroad. This one I'm not seeing where the crossing is, but the crossings are very close to where Quincy is, and you can see kind of how that crossing is angled. So these streets in particular have to do with the locations of the crossing relative to the intersection. And so for trucks coming through there, there's, sometimes they have to wait to get on to Quincy, and the tracks are right there. So you have people stopping on tracks. There's been also a number of incidents and near misses. They have the data on that. I did not bring that with me, but there's high numbers of incidents and near misses. So these were identified as the problem areas based on where the tracks cross. And so we're getting the same information from the Office of the Railroad Commission, the Federal Railroad Commission, and then Foxy, WACO as well. So, and our traffic engineer has reviewed it as well. So we know that these are the problem areas.
I'm still not understanding how Vanderbrack appears to be the problem, but not the other ones when the configuration is exactly the same. The distances are the same from the intersection. There's really no difference there.
And I don't know if you can see it here, but there's the angle of the tracks too,
Yeah, the track kind of crosses.
at an angle.
Can you see it on that?
Yeah, it's kind of where that white arrow is kind of pointing, like, you can see how the tracks enter,
Mhm. On an
is that
angle.
Green Bay
Are you
Packaging.
talking where it crosses Quincy?
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
across the Quincy right there, that little,
So
yeah.
there's a couple different, if I'm speaking correctly,
Mhm.
a couple different spots where it does this angled cross across Quincy, where it,
So due to the number of conflict points at that particular intersection, that's why?
And the angle and the location.
Sorry for pushing here, but this feels like we're inheriting someone else's problem, and I'm not really interested in cleaning up someone else's mess in this regard. So I need more information on this commission, why they're telling us to do this. That's not something I've seen come through this before. So
Mhm.
I'm currently not a fan of this and will not be voting in favor until we have more information.
So these are, I mean, this is a safety issue at this point, right? Is that why we're doing this and the railroad is, so these closures are in theory, going to make the area safer?
Mhm. Yeah, the other, we've also done traffic counts and traffic studies. The volumes are very low on this street, so they could handle the closures. The one we haven't done yet is Wheezy. There's a little bit more concern about that one with from the industry in the area, and then from the adjacent properties. So that's one that we still need to work through.
I think the issue is that the city has to do something, right?
Who is saying that we have to do something? That, I'm missing the process here. is the
Do you,
problem.
Yeah.
do you want to describe what the Office of Railroad Commissioners maybe is?
We're so- The Office of the Commission of the Railroad. So I've inherited this from, we've been under orders for about 2 years, and we've gotten 2 extensions, and when I came on, we were already past our due date for completing this work, and so I asked for another extension to October 31st, and they've just granted that today. So the next step would be a public hearing, and then they would essentially tell us what needs to happen. So we're operating under the ability, I guess, to make decisions on what happens still, and if we don't, then the next step is we would be directed with what needs to happen. So their orders were to close those, and we felt that those 2 streets could be closed based on the traffic volumes and the adjacent businesses that are there. It could accommodate those closures. So we've made that decision to move forward with that to satisfy the requirements, and that is where we're at with that.
So just to summarize, if we do or if we don't make a decision, when will be made for us?
Eventually, yes, and we've asked for an extension until October 31st. So we're hoping to show in good faith that we're moving forward with these, and we still need to come up with a plan for Wheezy Street.
And the pending decision, if they make it forward, could be the 3rd Street as well.
Yes, yes.
The railroad is making that decision?
The office of.
The office? They just do that, they just do it.
Let me look.
It's a division of the state government, yes?
It's a federal, I believe, yes.
Oh, it's federal.
Well, there's the Federal Railroad Commission. Do you have it
I know,
up?
right?
Commission, and then there's the OCR, which is part of the state of Wisconsin.
Okay.
This is, it's just an unusual, I don't think we've ever had anything. I think the only street vacation we've ever was Third over by, off of Broadway, is the only one I can think
Yeah.
of.
And we're not vacating the
Right,
streets, so we would still have that.
Right.
Yeah.
This is Jim Hutchison. Is there a possibility of holding this? Do we have a meeting in 2 weeks?
13th, but the 31st was the
Yeah.
extension, in good faith.
So the other, just the other concern with holding it is for the striping, we're getting close to the end of our painting season. And so we were hoping to move forward with that. Well, we still can. If we wait too long on the striping, then we would have to push that till next year.
Next Tuesday, the 7th.
The seventh.
7th, yeah.
It's the 7th, and then the 21st is the one after that. So if you did push it off, it'd be October 13th for us, October 21st for city council.
Does this have to be taken as a package of all of the striping and then closures? Can I isolate Vanderbrack, peel that off of the rest? Because the other ones make perfect sense. That section of Eastman just serves a parking lot and it's half a street anyway. The striping is fine, that, whatever, it's truck traffic, I mean, you have the spacing needs. So it's just this Vanderbrack one that I don't understand. So they don't get to just tell us, I mean, maybe they can, but to get our stamp of approval, they're gonna need to provide a little bit more than just, we gotta do this. The other ones make sense, I can sign off on those, but I will make a motion to approve minus the Vanderbrack closure.
I know there's a motion on the floor, but just the deep dive. The study you did with the traffic, and not the traffic impact analysis, but the notice won't always here. But the frequency,
The counts,
the
yeah.
counts, what does that look like, sound like, feel? What is that? Do you know offhand? I'm sorry.
I wish I had all this information. Our traffic engineer did that study, but they did counts from those areas. I could try to find it really quickly.
I'm just curious, if you can't.
Yeah, so he did it, so essentially, they did a traffic count, and they have the number of vehicles per day, and they're very low numbers for those two streets.
In your subject matter expertise, low meaning, is there a range?
Enough that the other streets could easily handle
Handle
that,
that.
yeah.
That section of Vanderbrack is 2 blocks between Webster and Quincy.
I agree, it's a mess.
It is, that whole area
I
with the
just-
train tracks and everything.
I'm not enjoying the method of being pushed around by a commission that doesn't even want to show their face here to explain their reasoning, so they're gonna need to provide a little bit more, or just do whatever they want to.
Which, that could put us in a different situation, they come in and they tell us what to do. as
I feel
opposed
like
to
that's
us
what's
having
happening
to
right
say-
now anyway, so I'm not sure it really matters. I'm not trying to make your life hard, I just, this doesn't come up and I'm not satisfied with the information provided, so. We're closed right now, sorry.
Why are you striking the street?
If you guys want to move this forward, I don't care. I'm just.
Right,
on my own
well, you
little
could, because
soapbox.
you've got, right, okay,
It's
so
a
we've got a
motion.
motion minus Vanderbrack. Do we have a sec, I guess, do we have a second?
Not yet.
And just for clarity's sake, is that to deny Vanderbrack or to hold Vanderbrack?
Let's hold it
Okay.
till next meeting, or whenever the rate.
All right, now do we have a second to that motion?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Do we have any further discussion? Or any questions for staff? Actually, I don't hate them because then it moves some stuff forward.
For some good faith.
Right, we put some stuff,
It'll move the whole thing forward.
right.
And then
The city council always has a say too, so, okay. All right, so we've got a motion as recommended minus Vanderbrack.
To hold?
To hold Vanderbrack
To hold
until the next
Vanderbrack.
meeting.
Does it still go to council if it's held?
It's still up on the report. So they could say, poo-poo, we're gonna do it anyway.
We're right, we're not holding it, here it goes. Okay. Okay, all right, then we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One nay. Two nays? All right. I know I have to count, is there seven of us? 5-2? And then that will move forward then to city council for October 2nd? 7th, okay. Okay, thank you. Alright. Moving on then to item number 3, which is a public hearing. Public hearing on a request to amend a conditional use permit at 1053 Velp Avenue to allow operations of the fuel station convenience store to increase operating times to 24 hours a day, submitted by Michael Knox of True North Energy LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a request to amend an existing CUP at 1053 Velp. This is at the intersection of Atkinson and Velp, so right off of the 43 interchange to come into the city. Pretty visible intersection. At this parcel here, there is an existing gas station convenience store. It has a car wash, fuel pumps, restaurant, something else maybe, kind of a commercial strip center, but this request is in particular to the convenience store. The existing CUP was established in 2009. That was attached in your packet, and we do have the original conditions listed a little bit further down in this, so we'll go over those then. Looking at the future land use map, again, looking at commercial for this area, which lines up with the zoning for the area as well. Again, that CUP has been established for almost 20 years at this point. And this is what it looks like. So again, mostly gas station, fuel pumps, car wash. So this is what we look at in general for our CUP. These are our 7 conditions that we look at to establish, and we did this with amendments as well, just as a reminder. And then in the existing CUP, these are all the conditions that were required as part of that original approval. What they are looking to do is to remove the hours of operation. They would like to go from hour restricted to 24-hour operations. For a number of years in the city, there was a lot of conversation about 24-hour establishments. When they would come before Plan Commission, there was usually, like, if it was a drive-through, you know, like when the speaker box could be on, what does the lighting look like, what are your emergency response protocols, those sorts of things. We haven't received a lot of those applications in a number of years. I think mostly COVID related. A lot of things stopped being 24 hours for a very long time. So this, we haven't seen a request for something like this in a while. But with that, they kind of proposed their own things that they would be doing for that 24-hour operational period. So they supplied a narrative that was also in your packet where they talked about doubling their staff coverage. That was a regular condition we used to put on for 24-hour places, that they had to have at least 2 people staffing. They're just offering that up. The collaboration with law enforcement, they have already reached out and requested additional patrols in the area for when they do switch over to 24-hour coverage. And then enhanced security features, so some things with the doors and then a safety 911 button for the operators that would be working there. Right now, I did not condition any of these things as part of the conditional use. They can certainly be added though. I think it shows great initiative that they already sought these things out before even applying with us. These things are already installed, like they're ready to go. But if we wanted to add these as conditions onto the conditional use, that would be appropriate as well. Something to look at when we're talking about the 24 hours, the fuel pumps are already 24 hours because you can use a credit card on those. So that traffic is already existing. So this would be for the extension of the convenience store hours. Written in the staff report, I hadn't received any feedback from neighbors, but I did get an email today asking, what about the car wash? And that wasn't something I had considered, so I'm glad somebody asked. Right now, those have the same hours of operation. It's cut at 10 p.m. and reopens at 7 a.m. I would think that we would probably want to keep those hours of operations the same. Car washes have a lot more sound impacts than just a convenience store. So that would be something that I would like to edit into these conditions, that the car wash maintains these hours of operation, but that the convenience store would be able to expand to 24 hours. So something to consider when looking at this application. But I think that is all that I have for now.
Okay. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. State your name and address at the podium. I do have a name here, but I don't know if they want to speak or not. Wait,
Is that for this one?
it says item number 3, so.
Tina?
Jen and Dick.
Gene and Dick, we don't want.
You don't want to talk, okay. Are you favor or opposed?
I don't know yet.
Okay, all right, good answer. All right. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Is there anyone wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 4. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend a conditional use permit at 1053 Velp Avenue to allow operations of the fuel station convenience store to increase operating times to 24 hours a day, submitted by Michael Knox of True North Energy LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We are recommending approval of the request. Again, I would like to note that we should address condition number 2 to discuss the car wash. In reviewing this, we looked to see if there were any major or substantial issues when it came to this. We have not received anything that would not be considered normal for a gas station. All the police calls are tracked online, but those are for things like theft or gas leaks or things that you would normally associate with that. There's also a lot of police calls for car accidents because it's at such a major intersection. So it's kind of hard to weed out what goes with the business and what doesn't. But in reviewing how the location has operated since 2009, we haven't had any major issues. They've complied with the rest of their CUP conditions. So we're supportive of extending to 24-hour coverage.
So the back of the building is just completely, it's a facade, like it's not bothering the neighbors because it's in kind of a, it's settled into a residential area.
Yep, and they have a required buffer in that area, so I think there's a fence and a landscape buffer.
Right, and they already have lighting at night because they're 24 hours in the pumps.
Yep.
So is the lighting even going to change?
There wouldn't be any
I feel
additional
like
lighting
that's
on
usually the
rear.
thing that,
Yeah.
lighting is the thing that people are concerned
Yeah,
with.
there aren't any doors or anything that extends to that south-facing neighborhood.
So the only thing that we really need to address is that car wash.
Car wash,
Just
and
the-
then if you wanted to add any of these in as requirements as part of the CUP, again, this button is already installed, they've already done that.
Okay.
They already called, so it may be like if you want to require the double staffing, I don't know if that's overkill, that's completely up to you. That's just something we used to do about 10 years ago. So that was one of our major requirements, but I feel like businesses have kind of adjusted to knowing what's best for their customers, the safety of their staff, so I mean, they've already reached out to the police department. I think that they have an idea of how they'd like to run that, so, but it is up to you all.
Can you go back down to the previous? Yes. So currently, that car wash could be operated 5 to 11, 5 a.m. to 11 p.m.?
No, it's 10 to 10.
7 a.m.
7 a.m. to 10 p.m. There we go.
Yeah.
That was a part of a separate PUD event that happened.
I was trying to remember which part of it, because I'm not looking for after.
Yeah, that wasn't too long ago.
Okay, does that match the noise ordinance hours? 7 to?
7 to 10 is the noise.
Noise.
ordinance.
Okay, I think that we
So I
should,
feel like that's
that's probably the most logical.
Yeah. So we have to put it as a condition.
We would just be editing condition D
Yeah.
to reflect that. I mean, it's already part of that original CUP, but we're amending this CUP, so I think that's good for the double coverage on that one.
Automatically get into the 24
So
hour.
just specify hours of operation
Right next
specific
to
to
it.
car wash, 7 a.m. Everything else.
Yeah, and I think the staffing, I think it should be open.
I feel like, I feel like a lot of businesses have problems finding staff, having two, and then they have to close because they don't have two people.
That part.
But I guess if it's a safety issue, then they should have two
They would,
people,
they
so
should
I.
have to, yeah.
Leave that up to them.
Right.
I
Yeah,
think that's
yeah. And the fact that they've already researched and done it already, or suggested, I think that's a great step too.
Okay, yep, go ahead.
So, I just know this was brought to my attention by a constituent, and that's kind of why we're here. So I just had a question, if for some reason some issues happened with the access, that is, I think, G in the original CUP, pedestrian access to the sidewalk on Coppins. So I don't know if you could see it in any of those pictures, it's kind of like ducked back there a little bit. There is a tiny little, some neighbors on Coppins, you know, there's concern that there may be an increase at any given hour of foot traffic into the, I'm personally in favor of this, but I just wanted to call out, like, would it be possible, if that becomes a concern, to bring it back and maybe close down that pedestrian access into the neighborhood? Is that feasible at a later date? It's legal, I can tell you that. I don't know how, I mean, we like when there are connections like this to commercial areas for people to have that direct access. But if there were enough neighbors that felt really strongly about it, that might impact, because this is a pretty small block, you would be able to still walk around, but this is intended to be that access for these. Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Otherwise, it's all
Else you'd have to walk down around, so. Yeah, like I said, I mean, folks work all shifts, so having access to what they may need at any given hour, like they mentioned, there wasn't any issues, but just wanted to call that out, that one neighbor did bring it up, so.
So we concerned that the neighbors are walking to the convenience store?
Right, I was thinking,
Right,
like,
well,
well, driving more traffic,
yeah.
yeah, if they're talking about neighbors, but it's the neighbors.
But if it's not neighbors, you know, if it's just folks getting from point A to point B and cutting through, but that, you know, folks can walk at any given
Right.
hour of the day, so that's all right.
Noted.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Oh, it is enough fence back there. Look at
Right, I
it.
know, it's a little pretty fence.
Mogul or practice over here.
Okay. All right.
What are we in the public hearing?
No, we are in the actionable item. We are definitely having a conversation.
So ready to go then? Anybody else go?
Yeah, no.
Let's move to approve with the amendment to B, right?
The car.
For hours of operation, specific to the car wash, to match quiet hours, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Or second.
10 p.m.
10 p.m. to 7.
Gotcha.
Thank you.
Yes,
Switch that.
second.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote then.
Did we get a second?
Did we get a second? Oh, no, I'm just sitting
I
here.
did.
Yeah, I was gonna say, wait. All right, so we've got a motion by Vice Chair Miller, second by Commissioner Daniels. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward then to City Council for October 7th. Moving on to item number 5, which is a public hearing, and this I'm gonna say that. Automatic. Public hearing on a request to rezone properties at 1577 Langlade Avenue and the 1400 block of Argonne Drive from a planned unit development to PI Public Institutional submitted by Angie Streckenbach, applicant, Timothy Keene of Rock Lake Properties LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So the property that you're looking at right here is one that you have to have looked at back in 2023. It's currently a PUD for a car lot at the property that was proposed, but never actually followed through upon. So the PUD is the existing zoning on site. The request is to change the zoning in this area to allow for a church use. Highland Baptist Church is looking to come onto site. Churches generally are PI uses, and that's what is being sought after here. So what you're seeing here right now is an aerial photo of the old Green Bay Nursery that was there, and at this point now it's essentially just remnants and some old plantings that are on site, but its site is not being used. So the existing zoning, as noted, the existing comp plan in the area calls for commercial to the north and low density residential to the south. In both those, so when it comes to zoning then, C1 commercial to the north, R1 residential back to the south with the PUD overlay. In both C1 and R1, a church is a permitted use. Why are we here then? It's split zoned. In R1, it's a conditional use, but it is a use that can be followed through upon. And in cases like this, we'd like to see this to be one overall parcel, which is to be about 5.83 acres, to have one standard zoning on the site. So next up, we're just seeing a standard aerial photo of the overall area. Once again, this is an older area, but trying to give you some perspective as to how this was on site. These are some street view photos of the area itself. I want to note 2023, so you're not seeing the signage and some of the structures are not there, but the view from the southeast is along Military Avenue, looking past the assisted living home up towards the site. And then the next slide is that existing PUD. So with the zoning change here, what occurred here is the PUD would go away at that point officially. So right now, if somebody came through and followed up on the plans that were approved back then, they could do auto sales on this site if it followed the PUD. Those PUDs last for 5 years. If you don't act upon them in 5 years, PUD goes away, it goes back to base zoning. In this case, when it comes to public institutional, like you do with the church would become the use in the site. If the church went away, you're back to what you had for base zoning. So you'll see here, every few months we come forth with, we're looking to do an R1 to a PI because we have church uses. It makes more sense to be in that PI designation just for the overall sense of bulk requirements and general uses. But if the use goes away, you revert back to your initial zoning on the site. For the next slide, you're seeing a rendering of what the site looks like. Keep in mind, for site plans and renderings, this commission nor the council is looking at what is specifically there. You're just saying, hey, can this site handle a use like this? Is it being 5.83 acres? The answer is yes, it can handle a use like this on the property. There is sufficient space to meet parking requirements, green space requirements on the property itself. It was noted in the narrative that this group is looking to have some variance requests. It's a separate action. If they feel they can prove a hardship, they can go for that. The part in a site plan that is a separate review there were some buffer issues as far as being too close to existing residential and the 25-foot buffer requirement that is in place for a non-1 or 2 family adjacent to residentially zoned or residentially used properties. But that's a site plan. As staff, we looked, can this site handle a church with the parking that's being put forth? That's what would come to question here as far as the recommendation itself goes, but it is a large site. As to comments, the petitioners held a neighborhood meeting back on September 18th. There were approximately 20 members of the public there. It was a good conversation that lasted well over an hour. Some of the concerns though we're going back to not so much zoning, but just what does it mean for specific site elevations, site plan, where's a driveway, things of that sort, that the code takes in consideration. And whether the property is zoned PI or C1 or R1, things like a driveway onto Argonne are permitted on the site. So there were concerns about driveway access, removal of existing trees and vegetation on the site, displacement of wildlife that has come across the site, concern about traffic volumes at peak hours when services are done on Sundays, concern about light pollution on the neighboring properties, and concern about changing areas that are heavy residential zoning to non-residential, i.e. PI.
Okay. All right, so with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item.
I'm Bill Chaya from Highland Crest Baptist Church, and we have our architect and construction manager. Just here to answer any questions.
You just state your address for the record, please.
1528 Kohler Court.
Perfect, thank you. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item?
Karen Novotny. I'm here on behalf of Carter Jones Properties, who owns the property two properties to the north, 1330 South Military Avenue. Our concern is that the proposed driveways that they want to add and everything will have an issue with our only access. So we have a legal easement road between Langlade and 9th, which is the only access to our property. And the major entry point for our customers is on Langlade, right on the corner of Langlade and Military. There is already a congestion issue since that is a non-signaled intersection. The landscape that got redone on the corner for the restaurant blocks view, and there was actually an accident there on Sunday. So adding extra traffic on Sundays, I'm not opposed to extra stuff in the area. My property only has access from that corner because almost all of my customers avoid the other access point that makes you cut through the gas station, because the gas station doesn't enforce the easement road, and there is always a U-Haul truck and other stuff parked there. So our major concern is people continuing to be able to access our property, because that is the major entry point on that corner. And we've been open for a year, and our traffic flow is increasing with our retail store there. And it's already starting to be an issue since we do not have an access point with a driveway onto Military. And again, there was already an accident there on Sunday, so that is our major concern, is making sure everybody is safe in the area and our customers won't get blocked in and nobody will be able to get out. So I'm not sure if it's a later point in which we propose that the city gets rid of the easement road, if that is the solution to the problem, but that was my major concern when we were given the notice, was that is our, for us and Midas next to us, it's not just us, it's us and a neighboring business at Midas, that easement road is the only access and the majority of people come in on Langlade. Thank you for hearing me.
Okay. Thank you so much. All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
My name's Alan Hicks with Highland Crest Baptist Church. My address is 902 South Madison Street, Green Bay. The only time that we would really have any traffic is going to be Sunday morning. And if I'm understanding things right, I think your business is closed on Sunday. And so, but anyway, it's like a 15-minute period of time that we have traffic in there coming in and out of church, and that's about it. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
I realize I can wait till the next one, but I'll speak now. Elder Melinda Eck. So it's not only in my district, it's in my neighborhood. And it was like, I think 2 years ago that the church had asked me to come for a meeting, and they were kind of talking about adding on to their doing an addition. And honestly, I said, hey, what about adding, moving your church down to the Green Bay Nursery location? Not really thinking it would necessarily happen, but I'm thrilled that it is. So I'm 100% in favor of this rezone. And I know that's what we're here for, is for the rezone. And the proposal, I know your concern, there's 3 different driveways that are entry points. So I think that would actually, might help with the congestion that she was concerned with. But anyway, so I just wanted to say that I am definitely for this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 6, consideration with possible action on a request to rezone properties at 1577 Langlade Avenue and the 1400 block of Argonne Drive from a planned unit development to PI Public Institutional, submitted by Angie Streckenbach, applicant, Timothy Keene of Rock Lake Properties LLC, property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So for the property itself, it's proposed to become one larger property. The user is allowed to have access onto each individual drive. And they have submitted a site plan. Mind you, we are not discussing the specifics of the site plan. It's just does it hit code. And in code requirements, especially along Langlade, would be because you're at an intersection, the driveway has to be placed further away from the intersection. If you look back to the north and that problem intersection, it's on the properties to the north that has such a close drive entrance back onto Military. In the future with those properties, when there is full-on reconstruction, a driveway like that, based on current code, would not be allowed. In a redevelopment for these, for this site itself, that's where a driveway would have to be moved, essentially to mid-block itself, or where or nearest where the existing parking or driveway is on the property, which looks to be about 200 feet or so from the intersection itself. So, given the sake that the PUD that's in place right now is not going to go forth and that's in a PI use, if for some reason the PI does not happen, the actual use, and the code would go revert back to being C1 to the north and R1 to the south, staff is in favor of the rezone change for public institutional on this site.
Okay, thank you.
Curiosity.
That's how I feel.
It's just curiosity. I just have a quick question. Are there height restrictions?
For a church itself, it goes to PI, but churches have a allowance for steeples and things of that nature to where there is no height restriction.
Bell towers.
Architectural aspects.
Yes, like
Crosses.
yes, things of those nature that you would see, yes. Otherwise, we go to typical PI standards, which is based off of what's happening in the surrounding neighborhood, which is R1, so 35 feet. In the initial drawings, as far as what was being shown to us, didn't see any problem with this at all.
It is curious with that access road on the other, I'd never noticed that, but yeah, those 2 properties are completely they're kind of landlocked, which, doesn't necessarily have to do with this development that we're talking about. I understand the traffic increasing, but yeah, that is interesting because it goes all the way through that gas station. So eventually, like, if there's development there, that access road would be moved.
So for the properties in the north under existing code, if there was full-on reconstruction of those properties, that drive entrance would not be permitted in that location so close to an intersection.
Right.
But as if just general repairs happen to it where you're not exposing the gravel base,
Right.
you can keep on utilizing that way.
And right now, the current PUD says that we could put a car dealership there.
Correct. Yeah, it was Hyundai
Right.
dealership that was in place in
Church
this.
seems
I remember
slightly
the
less
fencing
traffic,
and.
right, yeah.
We thought it was crazy.
Congested.
We thought it was crazy.
Okay. But I feel like a church is definitely going to be a lower impact than a car dealership.
Move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Daniels and a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion? No, all good. All right. All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forth into City Council for October 7th. All right, moving on to item number 7, which is a public hearing. Public hearing on a request to amend a planned unit development for property located at 1726 and 1760 Shawano Avenue, submitted by Aaron Breitenfeld of Robert E. Lee and Associates applicant, St. Mary Hospital Medical Center of Green Bay, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So what we're looking at here are two parcels, the main St. Mary's Hospital facility and then the old Crossroads Manor Care facility that's been raised. It's the building, the single-story building that's located just to the west of St. Mary's itself. So on the next slide, you'll see the future land use, which calls for the public or semi-public for the hospital itself. And that's the area that we're looking at right now, is in our West Medical one, which you're going to see in the PUD map here in a moment. So the next slide is going to show that the zoning for the overall area is a PUD for uses. Last time you happened to have seen this as a board was back over towards Taylor and Shawano for the Purveyor Clinic that was placed over at the old mobile site in some former homes. So with this overall development, which you see on the next slide, is the map which separates this into West Medical and one and West Medical 2 uses. The area in red is the area that we're talking about as far as what St. Mary's is proposing to do redevelopment on their site to add a new tower and a phase 1 and phase 2 approach on the site itself. You're seeing the old Manor Care facility, and then this is an older map, so it's not showing that purveyor that was built out this way. This is the original mapping that you've seen for the PUD that was approved back in '07. And as I noted, there's been 2 amendments in that time, one being for this larger purveyor clinic, the other one being for some signage that has occurred on the site for some updates. So St. Mary's has come forth and brought forth some design updates to the hospital. So they are looking to, in the middle of the overall hospital facility itself, take out an existing wing or tower and replace it with a 117-foot phase 1 tower in the middle of the property. With that new tower, there'd be new architectural design that kind of matches to a 2025 standard. You can see right now with the building, it's been a bit, add-ons have really reflected the course of time and materials of when it was built. You can pretty clearly tell this was a 1960 original version, the cream brick standard windows. You go look into the late 2000s, you see a bit more intricate design that looks of that era. And now, with the addition of glass and metal on the site, looking more about, I guess we're early 21st century, the 2025 look that's coming into play. So within that tower, they're looking to have both hospital rooms and medical offices on the site. And as you can tell from the picture on the upper left, in a way, they're looking to change their entryway into the building from, rather than being a main entrance off of Siegler in a little turnaround on the southern portion of the building near the ER, to rather turn their main entrance to the west. And so on the next slide, you see some elevations as to how this might look. The slide to the north here is your southern elevation that you can see from Shawano itself. And the western one here, you can see an entry point coming in an area where there'd be the largest surface parking lot where people who are coming to the hospital as patients would be parking in their overall site development. Steph, you can slide 44, just to give a representation. So this is a site plan that's been put forth conceptually for the site. So you're seeing primary entry then, rather than being at the drop-off, the circular turnaround would be over to the west, and that'd be your new primary entry that they're proposing. And then back off to the east would be the new tower at 117 feet in this area. Manor Cares and the assisted living is gone and replaced with a combination of parking, sidewalks, and landscaping, open area, and the parking that would then feed into the primary entrance. It becomes now a secondary entrance then for the place, for the area over on the south side of the property. I'll get into some specifics about the PD in a moment, but I want to bring up in slide 43. They're proposing a phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1 would happen in the coming years to put up the 117-foot tower addition. Phase 2 was noted that they are looking to increase the potential height to as tall as 195 feet for that tower. Easily the tallest building in the city at that point, if we're to go that high. Now, it is not known if that will ever happen. They want to have the assurances that could happen. Why is that? So they're going to engineer a building tower, and they want to tack on additional floors on top of that. You need to design that appropriately if you need to know what your height is for a building. So while it is not known what phase 2 would be at this time, when would it be? 5 years, 15 years, 25 years from now? They want to design that with assurances that that could happen on the site. Now, I want to remind you in that case, if we're talking more offices, more employees, more staff, or more visitors, more patients, then things like parking would have to be addressed at that point for more parking on the site. But in the meantime, if we go back to the site plan, as far as what has been shown with both this new redeveloped area and the existing parking that occurs back up to the north, along with the child care center and other offices back to the north of this overall site, what has been proposed does meet code and goes over by about 100 stalls as far as the minimum requirements on the site. So the additional changes that you're seeing compared to what's there right now. Right now you have 5 driveway entrances onto the site itself. One coming off that intersection at Siegler, and then 4 other ones, 2 which came from the old assisted care facility. St. Mary's is looking to propose having 3 entrances off of Shawano rather than 5 entrances. But one of those entrances will come into play with other changes from the code. So in your packet, you happen to have seen the old 2007 PUD. Did not put in any of the information for extra, for the Purveya over on the corner. It's not relevant to this overall change. And there's some signage changes too, back in 19 or so. But I put in the original packet to give you the comparisons as to what they asked for back then and the changes that would occur now. So step the next slide here. I want to go through what each of those changes would be that were noted here. So throughout that code that was put forth back in 07, plenty of references back to Chapter 13. We haven't used Chapter 13 as our zoning code for a number of years. This revert to our current Chapter 44 standards. The next one, changing the building setback standards to reflect Chapter 44-1964 for development near single or 2 family homes. That's a typical. This is going back to our buffer question that was brought up in our last rezone here. If you happen to be a property that happens to be more than 1 story, obviously this one is, your buffer requirement is 25 feet from single or 2 family homes. That's pretty easily met with what they are asking for landscaping on that side of the property. Other requests would be changing the setback along the eastern boundary for any parking facilities from a minimum of 8 feet to expanding it to 10 feet, with the addition of requiring 6 shrubs for every 50 linear feet and a 100% opaque fence or visual buffer, rather than 5 shrubs for every 50 linear feet and 1 tree for every 50 feet and a 9% opaque buffer. So, Steph, if you can go back to the site plan itself.
Sure.
I know this is going into scaping and changing back down here. This is the area by the apartment complexes that are off to the east of the property. There happens to be multifamily complex over in that area. Right now, there is a 100% opaque fence It is an 8-foot buffer. It's a combination of rocks, some boulders, and some shrubs. No trees. To be noted, in that area, there happens to be quite a few fiber optic lines that are buried in that area. And so it's trying to find a compromise into what is already existing traffic flow patterns and keeping enough space for emergency vehicles, things of that sort. Staff felt it was appropriate to change the code from 8 to 10, giving the buffer to be a little bit larger and increasing the shrubs from 5 to 6. That goes beyond our standards, but not requiring trees because of the roots that are in that area, and because the fencing is 100% opaque and required to be that way. We can stick on this.
I'm here.
We're already going to the site plan. This is fine. Okay. So another question that came into, or a point that came into play in the PUD itself is changing the maximum building height from 140 or 140 feet or 10 floors to 195 feet in West Medical District 1. So that would allow for the future expansion of the hospital tower itself. So right now in phase 1, the phase that they are originally proposing to do at the moment, there would be no change or need to update that code, but this is a part that's being requested for future redevelopment. There's been change to the code to update the building material standards to reflect different materials for different building additions throughout the history of the building, and adding more provisions for more modern materials. Right now, the way the code is set up is still more into a, let's meet a metric of hitting a certain amount of brick materials. In this case, what we're trying to do is we recognize there are different materials for different times, and that the language that was put forth in there, we believe it's a reflection to meet modern materials that heck, we may not even know about at the moment, that may be reflective at the time come 20, or whatever would happen when phase 2 would happen. Speaking of reflection, one of those things that was noted in the materials that we are a bit concerned about is with the amount of glass and metal that might be on the building. There could be reflection to neighbors or people who are driving along Shawano or Dousman, depending on the sunlight. Depending on the specifics that would be presented to staff at the time, we would require to have documentation noting that the reflective material of either the glass or metal would not be harmful to neighbors or vehicles on site. Since we don't know it exactly, we didn't want to shoot them in, but at the time when they bring forth materials to bring forth the appropriate documentation on that. So on to the next page as far as code changes. Nope.
I'm not crazy, right? This is.
I don't know. Is it a different screen between sharing?
I don't know, because it's not even sharing right now.
It's because you expanded it wider and we're just seeing what's on your screen?
Right now, nothing should be.
I mean, it's adorable.
There's Piper.
We don't need to expand, but this one's smaller on this one, so we could probably just go on to when you share that. There we go. That works.
Did it. I'm not touching it again.
So we added a provision that would, our current code allows for when you have 15 or beyond 15 stalls consecutively, you have to have a landscape island placed in between. There was a request to have it bumped up a bit more to 18. Looking back at that site plan, there's some angles that are occurring with trying to maximize the amount of stalls on the site. We felt that 18 was a good compromise that would still keep the intent of the code, especially granted the amount of landscaping that's being proposed off to the west on the property. So staff was okay with that. This is a larger one, and this was where the site plan does come into play. We can go back to that. Back over by the emergency room on the eastern part of the property. Right now, there is one drive entrance that you have to go to the eastern parking stalls and to the emergency room itself. The applicants are looking to change this to where there'd be the one main entrance in the west and then two entrances over here on Shawano. The issue is they're about 140 feet apart. Code requires that if you happen to have two entry points on one street, you gotta be 200 feet apart. So there have been traffic studies done, and we asked DPW, do you feel it's still safe here, given the usage as far as being an emergency drop-off? And then, let's call it an accessory drive for staff, not the main entry point for staff or visitors. DPW felt it was comfortable to be at 140 on this site, and so we're okay with that as far as traffic movements for ingress, egress over in this area. But that would be a change that's noted into the PUD itself. And then finally, there's provision that any final building elevation plans and design centers of that sort would be approved by the Director of Community and Economic Development or their designee. The reason for that is the old language from 07 referred back to building design like fenestration or signage to be approved by Community Design Review Team, CDRT. That design team hasn't been in place for years and years, so there's no CDRT to go to. So instead, looking to put that on to the Director or their designee. But overall, the applicants have held 2 neighborhood meetings for this. One was back around early March, and one was in August. In both cases, about a dozen to 18 people showed up. In both cases, people seemed to be pretty excited about the idea of what was happening out this way. The biggest concerns that came out of this from the public was construction, noises and traffic down the street to the west that connects Dousman and Shawano. Not necessarily traffic happening through Shawano or Dousman itself. I'm blanking on the street name itself, but I'm looking back to the site plan. Fellows, thank you. All right, Fellows Street, which is a street that just connects between Shawano and Dousman, and it has some single-family homes on it. That seemed to be the largest concern. I will note that at the second neighborhood meeting, the idea of the tower being 195 feet as its potential height was not specifically mentioned. There was a note that it would be a taller building in the future, but not 195. So, in our notifications to the public, we did note that specific number of 195 feet. But all that said, we've just received a few calls here in the past week, mostly just curious about what's going on, but nothing either in support or against.
All right, now with this public hearing, I'm looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item.
Good evening, Jared Schmidt with Robert E. Lee & Associates, 1250 Centennial Center Boulevard, here along with a representative of HSHS, just to thank you all for taking the time to hear the public hearing and then into deliberation, able to help answer any questions. I do just want to make a couple of general comments. Just so I think we're clear, building height of this above first floor is 108 feet. The 117 references to the bottom of the tunnel, which would actually reflect the basement height. So those are all noted on the elevation plan that was shared. I just, for the sake of completeness, wanted to bring that up. And then, a thing that's really important to us is the quality of materials, and the request for the change in the material component was to allow us to set the benchmark for the corridor. Obviously, the hospital and their uses have a significant footprint in this corridor. And it's of our position that we need to maintain the highest level to help and spur any future redevelopment. So the material changes were to allow a little bit more deviation than what the rules today set, but with the intent of keeping the bar extremely high. And with that said, I know John had run through a number of the other changes that we had requested, and happy to help answer on those questions should anything technically be asked about why we are requesting those changes, how we are requesting those changes, and the specifics of whether it's building height, the extra driveways, all of those pieces. More than happy to answer any questions you may have. So thank you so much.
Is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item?
Hello. So this is across the street from my district. So I did go to, a neighborhood meeting about it, and I got one phone call, but the person was totally in favor of it. I'm in favor of it. I think it's a great opportunity for the west side. I know there's hospitals on the east side, and this just makes it more available, for healthcare for the residents on the west side, which of course serves my district. So I'm in favor. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would wish to speak on this item? Awesome. Is there anyone wishing to speak?
I just have a question. And I'm probably not necessarily able to be addressed here, but Siegler has a stoplight currently, and I know that traffic on Shawano is of concern, so I'm just curious if that were to stay or go away, because then your next traffic calming would be between the roundabout and Perkins, which is a long way for cars to speed up. It's not my district, but my kids go to the dentist on Siegler, so I'm over there enough. And not any issue with the plan itself, but just wondering if that's been thought about, if that light will stay or not.
Thank you. Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Is there anyone else wishing to speak? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to item number 8, consideration with possible action on a request to amend a planned unit development for a property located at 1726 and 1760 Shawano Avenue, submitted by Aaron Breitenfeld of Robert E. Lee and Associates, applicant, St. Mary's Hospital Medical Center of Green Bay, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So to answer the question about what I mean the Siegler for a light, it has been thought about. The applicant has been talking to DPW about this. They presented us a 200-page traffic impact analysis study, which I did not include in your packet because I didn't want your packet to be 400 pages. And because we're not engineers, and so we don't have a good recommendation for you on that. It's a DPW question, but we understand that that's part of the future. Where the part that came into play for us in code is that drive entrance, because our code does address that in chapter 44. But when it comes to the lights, it'd be a separate matter on that between DPW and the state in the future. This is a state highway after all. So. With all that said, the staff would make a recommendation to approve these requests of the amended PUD for the site.
There was a whole excavator in the middle of Manicure today, just clawing at it. It was right in the middle of the building. I was confused as to how it got in the middle. I must have gotten in the back, but from the road, from Shawano, it looked like it had just gotten right, it was eating its way out from the middle. That was my fun observation for the day.
My question about parking. I saw in the report the first phase that expanded. There's plenty of parking on site. With the additional, the future phase, that would there be more parking that would be required, or would that be covered by what's in this?
It's going to go back to that question of rooms, employees, and uses. So you're going to take that intensity up in the future. That ratio for what is available is going to go down. There is provisions in the code as far as talking about parking structures and finding additional sites for parking all throughout West Medical District 1 and 2. They'd have to address that. I'll note, like right now, for instance, when talking with the applicants, they don't go into essentially area north of where the hospital is, now by the child care facility and Sparrow up along Dousman. There is some legal non-conforming design elements over there, i.e. landscaping, parking lots, it's a giant parking lot area, but we're not counting that as part of this overall development over in this area because that's in West Medical 1. It's a separate parking facility compared to that. So there's room and there's parts written in the code for parking structures that would be noted. If they were to go through with phase 2 and go to that intensity, yeah, parking would have to be accounted for at that time.
It's just it's a concern of mine, because I'm seeing this neighborhood over here, and I'm just kind of tired of seeing our neighborhoods being demolished for parking lots around hospitals. So it's just, I totally support the I'm really glad to see that they're expanding the hospital. I'd love to see that I just don't want to see sprawling parking lots. I don't know if there's some way we can, I don't know if there's anything we can do.
Right, and so it's noted in the existing PUD that you could amend if you'd like. That, like for instance, in West Medical 2, that surface lot as an accessory to new development is allowed. So that was kind of written into the code itself as far as sharing parking. I'll note that right now with that Purveyor clinic, I've been told anecdotally from the applicants that there are some employees who go park over in this very large, currently existing surface area for St. Mary's and walk over to Purveyor because it's not quite as large of a parking lot for those folks. I hear what you're saying, kind of as far as not trying to make just essentially one giant tower, one office, and parking in between. But this is going off of what we happen to have here for permitted uses that were established back in '07 and continue here in the future.
Okay.
What's, just out of curiosity, what is the zoning across the street? Is it all R1 where all those single-family homes are? Like, we
No,
can't...
no, that's part of West Medical 2. So if we go back to that overall map, in West Medical 2 is essentially stating, in West Medical 1 is your big tower. It's your I'd say your primary uses. It's accessory uses that come into play across the way. So you have West Medical 1 directly across the street, then West Medical 2 back to the south. For instance, there's a property that's for sale there right now that people have asked about. They see existing uses down that way. There's some multifamily down that way. There's some single families down that neck of the woods. The code doesn't call for that to happen. Those are grandfathered uses, but once the use goes away or it was torn down.
You're talking about the other side of Shaw.
Yes, the other side of Shaw.
Well, I'm talking about down.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
north. Oh,
Right,
sorry,
yes,
yeah.
I'm sorry, the north.
Oh, back up that way. Yeah, that's our one. Once you get north
Okay,
of Delton.
so we're not going to be tearing down any more neighborhoods?
No.
More parking lots?
So St. Mary's does own quite a few of those parcels that are to the west between Fellows and the hospital itself. They do.
Okay.
But where the black line is at, that's your boundary for this overall west medical area, and to the north is R1.
Those neighborhoods in lots in question though are zoned R1, correct? So you could not build a parking lot on a lot zoned R1, correct?
No, that's PUD. We're going to go back to number 40 and back to what we have here for West Medical 1 as far as uses that are permitted in that area. So I'll just go through them real quick. This is going to be your typical OR allowed uses. Hotel, assisted living facility, CLAs, surface parking as an accessory use to new development or redevelopment phase.
Within which range, sorry?
West Medical 1. So we're talking from Gary back down to Shawano and even across the street. Surface parking is allowed in areas. As an accessory to new development.
This base zoning doesn't exist anymore
It doesn't.
because the PUD was enacted.
That's what I was trying to get at. Struck a nerve, Ken.
Yeah. It's already written in there.
Right, and this goes back to the odds, and what's been done for planning here for what is now a generation on site.
Can I add something to that? I know the floor is not
The
open.
floor is closed right now. Do you want to open the floor to hear from the applicant?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to open the floor. I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vitzke, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Thank you.
Come on up, please, Mr. Applicant.
That's a restate address, or are we good?
I think we're good.
Just to touch on the parking piece, right now, the way the PUD is written is that we can share parking between any HSHS owned property. We did do a projection, or a current count of parking. We have 1,191 stalls. And we did a projection of what are the required stalls based on the PUD language at the current expansion, as well as the expected, and I say expected because we don't know exactly the use, But if those are patient beds coupled with, so, 36 beds, times 4 for the full-time nurses, the full-time care, all of those, we do have a total for the ultimate build-out of the tower at 1,169. So we have 1,191 on site as it sits once this is built, if we get through all the entitlement processes, and we need 1,169. So based on the projected use of the remaining floors of the tower, we would have ample surface parking by code to what is on site today. I'm not saying that it wouldn't change or things won't evolve, but hopefully that gives you some peace of mind as to that we have thought about what's next, and we do know what's out there, and that we believe that this would address that. And then if I can just touch a little bit more on the Siegler light, we have formally asked for that light to be removed, as noted. I believe, and I'm going to miss the dates, but that's moving forward to the commission, not your commission, but I always forget the initials. But DPW is taking that through for a request to formally remove those, and I believe that's going forward to a meeting in the near future. So that has been formally requested, and we have worked through DPW on that piece. And the traffic study warrants that they are not warranted, meaning the level of service is adequate, even without the lights removed. Frankly, I think that was installed as a convenience matter, and I believe they actually flash yellow through the peak rush hour morning traffic because we want to get people into the city quicker. So that has brought forward, and obviously we don't know the result, but just so you folks are aware of all those components of that process that is underway. So thank you for reopening the floor. If there's any other technical questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Do you have anything else?
I have nothing else.
Is there a ramp or a garage as part of this currently?
No.
Okay, so it's all surface?
Correct, all surface, yep.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Motion to close the floor.
Motion by Commissioner Rubinski, second by Commissioner Daniels to close the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So was that light at Siegler just put in because it was the main entrance for the hospital?
I don't know, I think there might have been some political issues that happened, but there were folks who wanted to see that in the page.
Sounds great.
I'll just go through the parking requirements. We had changes that were put into, essentially reflect the existing code for chapter 44. But for your sake, as far as what is it that's in there that we're seeing? It's one space for each staff member on the largest shift, plus one space for every 4 beds, plus outpatient areas shall provide one space for 300 square feet of gross floor area up to 8,000 square feet, and one space per 1,000 square feet of gross floor area above 8,000 square feet. Location-wise, parking shall not be required to be on the same parcel as the primary use, but shall be located within the St. Mary's Hospital corridor boundaries as depicted on that map. So West Medical 1. Parking can be shared between West Medical 1 and West Medical 2. And then there's the updates to screening and landscaping on the code itself. That's helping out the people who happen to be single family or 2-family adjacencies to the site.
I guess if you think about it, like St. Vincent's and Bellin, they have a lot of off-site parking. Like it's lucky that that St. Mary's is able to have their parking on site for employees.
St. Vincent does pretty well. Bellin has plenty that's.
Yeah, Bellin's everywhere. Bellin's all over the place, and then they got their security cars that drive around.
That's what
and everything.
my question was trying to avoid that.
Oh, right, we don't, underneath the Mason Street Bridge and down on Main.
But it seems like there's
Mason.
pretty set plan in play. I'll make a motion to approve as recommended.
What was that?
Kelsey.
Was that her second? Yep. So wait, now, we got a motion by Commissioner Rubinski, a second by Commissioner Lutzo. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And then we'll move forward then to City Council for October 7th. Moving on to our final public hearing. Item number 9, public hearing on a request to allow a firearms sales use within the community center district for property located at 2430 East Mason Street, submitted by Jeffrey Talbot and John Palmer on behalf of Sky Green Bay LLC, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is the old Chapel East location in the Easttown Mall. So technically, this area is covered by the Easttown Mall PUD. The PUD's base zoning is written as C3 for anything that is not captured within that PUD, which includes this type of use. Firearm sales are a conditional use within the C3 district, so that's why we are requiring the conditional use permit for this. So, a little bit of an overview. This is the furthest east portion of the Easttown campus. Looking at the Aldi here, I think a shoe store just went in here. Rogan, okay.
Shoe station.
And this is the old Shopko. So this is being redeveloped into half Dunham Sports and half gym fitness area. So looking at the future land use for this area, all commercial, which is pretty fitting with our PUD, which is a commercial mall area. So again, this zoning does not cover that, but it is in the PUD area. Looking at the elevation, this is the old Shopko building, obviously. Dunham Sports will be relocating here on one side of this building. As far as the sporting goods store is concerned, that would be allowed in the C3 district. It's only the firearm sales that are associated with Dunham Sports that need that CUP. So as always, we have our conditions that we look at. The use of firearm sales, we believe, does meet the requirements for these conditions, so long as it is associated with a sporting goods store. We think that, especially if the size of that building, if it were to be strictly firearms, that may not be compatible with the rest of the PUD and the intentions of that PUD, considering that is more of a commercial-based mall. But having Dunham's as that main component and this just as a subcomponent, the firearm sales also, like the caveats within that, they talk about firing ranges and ammo sales and that kind of stuff. None of that would apply here because this would just be for the sale of the firearms. So in looking at these conditions, we feel like those are met. In addition, we have land use development standards that cover firearm sales, and all these are listed in here. And again, has to be done in an enclosed building. If there are shooting ranges which don't exist at Dunham Sporting Goods, those are all the things that are covered there. So while these will be looked at again during site plan review to ensure that they're met, we don't see any issues with just the sale portion being associated with that. I believe that is all that I have for you for now.
All right. So now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item.
Someone online.
So someone online, you want to do first?
You can come on, you can come on up.
Bill Morgan, 2405 Grouse Court, Green Bay, Wisconsin. I built my house on Grouse Court 42 years ago, and my lot line is 100 feet from this building. And I can say, I used to be able to go down the hill 25 feet and walk into Shopko. I miss that. But I've watched this building sit and slowly get in worse condition. I've had people complain to me. I am the alderman for that area, for both where the building is and that area. I've only had one person comment. They were upset because whoever is managing it now doesn't keep lights on in back, so they get kids congregating and racing their cars behind that building all the time, which I constantly am telling our PD to patrol more. So I think this would be good. I'm for it 100%. I think then with this new people going in there, we'll get our lighting turned back on, which I was unable to get done through the people that are managing it now. They have been good as far as they put up a great fence that covers all of the residential area so that people can barely get down to there unless you go to one of the streets off of Edgewood. Also, I am a customer of Dunham's in the west side. I was just there last week, and I actually watched them doing a sale of a gun. They were very thorough. Their I just bought a gun at a different place recently, and I know the background stuff you have to go through for testing and all that. Plus, I was a policeman for 40 years, so I've always been around guns. I saw the Dunn's people did a great job at making sure this person went through all the hoops and made sure it was safer to sell a gun to this gentleman. So with that in mind, when it comes in front of the council, that'll get my vote for approval. Thank you.
And then we have someone online who wanted to speak on this item.
John, are you still wishing to speak?
We
can't hear you.
No. You don't have him muted, but something's not working.
He did submit a letter.
Yeah, I believe that. He did submit a comment form online as well, saying, I plan on attending the meeting via Zoom and will be available to answer any questions. He is the applicant.
Oh, okay. So, what do we do if he wants to speak, but we can't hear? Are we just, we're okay right now? If we have questions of the applicant, we'll ask during the actionable item? Okay. All right, is there anyone else wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 10. Consideration with possible action on a request to allow a firearms sales use within the Community Center District for property located at 2430 East Mason Street, submitted by Jeffrey Talbot and John Palmer on behalf of Sky Green Bay LLC, Inc., property owner.
Thank you, Chair. We did not receive any comments from the public regarding this application. We are recommending approval with two conditions, that the firearm sales are only allowed in conjunction with a sporting goods store and then compliance with all the regulations. So discussions about lighting, fencing, that would all come up during our site plan review, which I think they've already submitted for, so shouldn't be any issues.
All right, sounds good.
I mean, I know this property has been vacant for a while. Personally, I'm just not a fan of firearms, quite honestly, but I don't see a reason to vote against it if it goes with the sporting goods. I work for a retailer and I have sold firearms before, and so I know the stringency that comes with the paperwork. Just the era that we're in, it's a lot going on right now. Just the shootings that happened this weekend, but that's not a reason to vote against it from my standpoint, even though I don't believe in it personally. So that's all I want to say. Duly noted.
Yeah, I looked at every which way I could possibly deny this, because I agree. I also do not like firearms and what's going on right now in our country, but the Second Amendment, I feel like has this covered, and there's nothing, I mean, I'm looking at establishment, maintenance, or operation of a conditional use will not be detrimental to or endanger the public health, safety, and general welfare. My argument is that gun sales does endanger that, but the Second Amendment covers it, so I just wanted to say that. I don't think I can vote against it, though. I will not be making a motion now for it.
I can cover you on that, Ken. Move to approve as recommended.
Second.
All right, motion by Vice Chair Miller and a second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then that will move forward into City Council for October 7th. Moving on to item 11. Have a public hearing. All right. Consideration with possible action on a partial alley closure located near 409 West Walnut Street, submitted by the Tarleton Theater adjacent property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the area that we're looking at is not too far from here. So just over the bridge on Walnut and Broadway intersection, the Tarleton Theater is right here. And there's a vacant lot that's been vacant for a number of years. The theater group owns this parcel here and this parcel here. So 3-99, 3-98, and 3-107. The alley portion outlined in red is what we are proposing to close, not vacate. And then this green area here is the area that we are going to be discussing for a potential easement area. So keep that in mind. This is what that alley looks like now. I imagine it's fairly well used. There are a lot of businesses that back this up. They are required to sign off on that application for closure, so that's all been taken care of. And this area kind of shows where the traffic tends to go anyway. Through this parking lot that leads out to South Chestnut. So if you ever tried to use this before, the theater building does go right up to the sidewalk, so there is a line of sight issue, especially when it comes to bikers and pedestrians. So while we are looking at this as part of a larger development, it is also a little bit of a safety issue with having limited vision there. So looking here, we have had a temporary use permit granted to the Tarleton Theater for 2 seasons now for an outdoor event, concert-y thing that happens at this location. In looking to make that more of a permanent event space that would also be a food truck yard, they would need to have a liquor license. So in discussions with our legal department, DPW, ourselves, and our clerk, the consensus that we came up with is that closing this portion of the alley is the best way to make that development occur. Our current zoning code is a little bit silent on food truck yards. We have, event spaces, we have recreational areas, but we don't have anything that's specific to that because we are chronically 20 years behind every other municipality. So the idea for a while was that we were going to put together a PUD for this project that would have some of the the dimensional, the bulk requirements, hours of operation, things that we would normally associate with maybe a food truck yard. We're now thinking maybe we just do a text amendment and see if we could just add this into our code right away instead of going the PUD route. We're not really sure where we're gonna go. Either way, the alley does need to be closed though, so that way the liquor can be stored and transported over this public right of way. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. So it does work out that there is this space that is also owned by the applicant that can be used as an easement for ingress and egress for the rest of the alley. So while it does close this portion to traffic, it does have an immediate route out, which by our estimation is safer. It's mid-block, it doesn't go right up to the road, so I think it's a win-win overall, but this is a necessary step in trying to create this area to be for that food truck event space. We do contact other utility providers and departments. We've had no objections so long as the easement is in place. So because we are wanting to do this as part of a larger development project, we do have some conditions. Usually for any sort of a closure, we have a maintenance or closure agreement that is established with Public Works that talks about snow removal, fencing, how you block it. All those things are listed in there. We would require that easement over the drive alley portion of parcel 3-99, so that way that traffic can be maintained. And this alley closure is contingent on a PUD or other planning device being enacted to create a food truck yard and event space at 409 West Walnut. So again, the PUD or something else related to it, that's a site plan approval if we do put it into our code, we're not really sure yet. But we want to make sure that we're not closing the alley just to close the alley. If it's a safety issue, DPW has other actions that they can take prior to us just closing it to traffic. So we wanted to make sure that all this is kind of combined with one another. We think that once this gets approved, then we'll go forward with either a PUD or some sort of a text amendment at that point. So that way by next season, a TUP isn't required. It'll just be required by right with one of these actions. So that's kind of the long range plan for that area. But for the temporary purposes, it only gets enacted if there's some sort of planning action that occurs to allow for that food truck yard. And then the closure requires an agreement, which we usually do anyway. So we think that's pretty well covered based on if, a big development happens there, if a small development happens there, it does give us some leeway on how we want to go about that closure agreement. And the applicant is here if you have any questions.
We can talk.
Okay.
Quick question. Maybe this is I think I already know the answer, but I've seen a food truck yard in the Riverside Ballroom in the parking lot. Is that not required because it's private property and they can do things like that?
Okay,
Is
so
that
the reason why that's.
is that a loaded question?
Yeah.
That's why we need a code update for this, exactly.
Right. If you happen to have commercial property and have a parking lot, it's accessory use. The problem with this property and the ones that are similar to this is there's no use already in the property. You can't just put onto a piece of grass a food truck and say, that's our use. You establish a principal use in the property. You have that at Riverside Ballroom. It's okay.
So the principal use is in the back, so that means in the parking.
The ballroom itself is the.
So it can, okay.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at, doing some sort of a deep dive into a code amendment, because there are food trucks that pull up for the day that don't sell liquor.
Even that grassy
There
spot
are-
in the middle there too.
There are ones that pop up over the weekends when no one's there to enforce it. There are ones that are more established where they have, you have 3-month contracts and you're there the whole time, and there's restrooms and there's, all those things. And then there's ones that provide liquor that are more event spaces. So we have to try to look at all of those a little differently. So right now we're just kind of piecemealing different sections of code together to be reactive to them. So we're hoping that by doing either a PUD that lets us have a little bit of like wiggle room, like almost an experiment to see how it does work, or just going right ahead with the text amendment to say, here are the 4 scenarios you have. If you fit into this one, here's how you get it. So yeah. No, we see them around, right? Food trucks are very popular. We see them show up for events, but it's a really matter of like, does that place have an established use? Is that a commercial use? Does it have a liquor license? Are you selling liquor there? How long are you gonna be there? Do you have a porta potty on site? How do people wash their hands? The questions just keep compiling, so.
Motion to approve as recommended.
Second.
I'll give it to you, I'll give it to you.
So you got to arm wrestle? All right, we got a motion by Commissioner Vinsky and a second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? We'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moving on to City Council for October 7th, and moving on to item number 12.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks for hanging out.
Consideration with possible action on a request to create a final plat with 88 lots and 7 outlots, Nicolay Heights, that includes public dedications at 2892 Nicolay Drive, 2958 Nicolay Drive, and 0 Durham Road, submitted by Jason Mraz of Apple Tree on behalf of Terra Nullius LLC property owner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this is the continuation of this development that everybody should be familiar with, Nicolay Heights. If you want to go to the next slide. So the property, the future land use is low-density residential. And then for the zoning, the current zoning is low-density residential. They did get approval for planning and development on this, but it's pending approval of the final plat getting recorded, because the property owner doesn't want the zoning to change until like the land sale actually occurs, which makes sense.
Oh, right.
So if you want to go to the next slide. So this is what the final plat looks like. It is, the overall development is going to include 146 lots and 9 outlots, but this is phase 1. It's going to be constructed into 2 phases. So phase 1, which is what this review is regarding, it's going to have 87 single-family home lots, which are lots 1 through 42, and 44 through 88, with 1 clubhouse on lot 43. There's going to be 7 outlots total. Outlot 5 is dedicated to the public for a future trail connection. I don't know if you remember that discussion. And then there were the outlots, then there's additional outlots that buffer it, that is going to be owned by the homeowners association. along with road dedications for Eagle Lane, extension of Baywater Avenue, a portion of Overlook Circle, and a portion of Overlook Lane. Then behind the clubhouse, there's Outlot 3, which that will potentially be owned by the city at some point, but that would be taken under separate action and accepted later on. So when it comes to certified survey maps and final plats that include any type of dedication to the public, it has to come through Planning Commission and City Council for approval, and that constitutes the acceptance of the dedication. The Planning Commission did review the preliminary plat on July 28th, 2025. It's gone through several reviews by staff and as well as utility companies and Brown County. So we're at the point now where we actually have a final plat, which is wonderful. So it's gone through the pre-final plat process. We've gotten all of the comments addressed. So right now, the one thing that we're still waiting on is for site plan approval for the drainage, stormwater, and erosion control plans. So we would like to see this approval be conditioned on the site plan approval of the drainage, stormwater, and erosion control plans. That is all that I have.
All right, thank you.
And and I should, sorry, I hit live, I do. So when it goes through the plating process, the developer submits a preliminary plat, and as long as your final plat conforms with that preliminary plat, it pretty much should guarantee approval of the final plat. So they're moving forward with the preliminary plat. If we say that's okay, then we should, by all means, should approve the final plat. And sometimes if you don't, you can get in trouble with the state because it's kind of the guarantee that you give to the developer. But with that being said, it does comply with the preliminary plat. And again, they're doing it in 2 phases, so we'll see more in the future.
Motion to approve as recommended.
Sorry, what were the conditions?
Just one condition, it's going through the site plan approval process right now. So we want to make sure that those site plans are approved, which are for drainage, stormwater, and erosion control.
I know that like stormwater and drainage stuff was a big deal earlier, and just putting up the map, it looks like it's a challenging site. So I just hope they put enough thought into that.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, it looks like
Yeah.
the whole thing's a shoreline zone, and there's a bunch of environmentally sensitive. So I hope they've done their work, I guess.
Was this the site about the natural waterfall?
Yeah,
the
but you
protected?
mentioned something about that, but it was like back here or something.
That
I'm aware of. I mean, we heard that, we heard it, well, no, that's what we heard in the testimony with people that we're not aware of.
I know somebody mentioned like endangered
Protected.
species,
Yeah.
or
That's what I heard,
eagle's
eagle.
nest.
That was a snail, but.
Oh, that
But I definitely
was,
did hear
oh, maybe you're
that,
thinking
yeah.
of the Cos development,
Yeah.
the other,
On the other side.
Oh, so it's not, okay.
but this one I don't recall any type of waterfall.
There's nothing, no. I mean, there's like drainage and stuff, but there's no.
Right, yeah.
Maybe seasonally at the
Right.
exact right time, but not.
And it could have been the other one, because I think there's another one somewhere. Okay, thank you.
7:58 p.m.
Second.
Well then. All right, so.
Good enough?
All right, so we've got a motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then that will move forward into City Council for October 7th. Moving on to informational, Director's Report.
Hey, everyone. You got the official written report. I can tell you, I was in the office most of last week, but believe Badger is completely down now.
It's gone, yes.
It's
flat.
gone. It gives
a
us
little.
continued surprises. As we continue through the process, this is fun. US
Expensive
Bank is
surprises.
under construction fully as well. Of course, new land continues to be moving along. We're working on our housing study update. We received a draft back, so we're firming that up with the consultant. Hopefully within the next month, we'll have that ready to go to tell us where, like in the past 5 years, what has changed with regards to what our needs are in housing. And then Habitat Homestead is having their, I'm gonna call it their grand opening, it's not a groundbreaking, it's a.
Ribbon cutting?
Ribbon cutting.
Perfect.
On Friday at 11, that's the whole 13 homes that they did in that one section. Habitat Homestead on Richmond, Ricky Vine.
Ricky Street. Lions Club Block Park, too.
Yeah, so that's cool, so that'll be this Friday.
Ricky Street.
And then I also do, when I drive around town and I notice these fun things all over, like our chair does. I saw there were stakes up at the One Astor site. So at least something is happening there. That's all I've got.
Yeah, can we just have new land do everything, please? The other one seemed to drag their feet quite a bit, so.
I do, that has been a very fast.
On the record, be more like New Land.
Yeah, there we go.
On the record. All right, looks like next meeting is Monday, October 13th, 2025.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Vinsky, second by Vice Chair Miller. All those in favor? Aye. Good evening, everybody.
See you, Grace.